don't know nobody on this road that can save your soul. Almost lost control now. Tell me what you need in a friend and now. Pray that we endure to the end again. I'm just saying that I'm here for you. When the world turn against you, I'ma be with you. Got my soul in my hand, you can count on me. I won't run and hide, fight mightily.
Waiting on your house shot. See the Jacob, I'm the apple of my father's eye. I learned the truth for who I was and it made me cry. If I don't keep the laws of Yah, then I'm gonna die. Living curses, but I'm edifying in my verses. Prepare the hearses for the heathens who be steady learning.
Call Allah Yahweh. First and foremost, like to give all praise to the Most High God. Yahweh, we do so by Shema Mashek, Momalak Yahushai. Another blessed Shabbat down. Another blessed new moon down. Another blessed high holy day gone. And waiting for the next one as we count down to the mighty day of atonement. Tonight, through the Spirit on the Man of Mondays, this lesson is really for all of the brothers and all of the sisters as well. Because, it's a lot of sisters out there that are single that may be through the Spirit looking for that righteous king, right? To lead their household, to lead their family, to start a family, right? And there's a lot of brothers out here who, whether you are a brother who has a wife, or whether you're a brother who is seeking a wife, whether you're a brother who is even ruling your own household. You may be a brother who doesn't necessarily have a significant other as of yet, but the Most High God is building you up by Shem Yahweh to put you in that position to where you can obtain a wife. It says he who obtains a wife obtains a beautiful thing, paraphrase. But I want to start off with Sirach 27:3, because as men, it's important that we rule and govern our household. I'm going to say that again. As a man, it is very important that you rule and you govern your household. And if you find yourself falling short in that regard, being too lax, being too lenient, being too slothful in your efforts, you got to tighten up. And it's a lesson on myself. You got to tighten up. And these things, you need these reminders, because it's a heavy responsibility to have a family. It's not something to take lightly. Something that might keep you up late nights, reflecting on how to govern your family, how to care for your family, because governing your family in your household does not just mean being frantic, being a lion in your house, right? Being frantic. Let me get this real quick. It says, be not frantic in thy household, right? Let me get this. Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 4:30. And it reads, be not as a lion in thy house, nor frantic among thy servants. And when you go into this be not as a lion in thy house, you have to have a balance. It's not a dictatorship. The Most High is giving you a responsibility to care for, to govern, right? To guide, to love, to direct, to protect your household, your family. And you have to have a balance. Sometimes it's time to rule with an iron rod, as they say. And other times it's time to be compassionate. You got to learn how to listen. You have to learn how to ask questions. That's one of the biggest things, is asking questions and not just assuming that because something looks like it's something, is that. Taking your time to really investigate. Let me get this word really quick. To investigate and to know the whole matter. So investigate, to carry out a systematic and formal inquiry to discover and examine the fact of an incident allegation so as to establish the truth. Because running a household, you have to be able to investigate and to kind of dig deep, uncover some things. And sometimes it's a time to talk, and sometimes it's the time to just sit back and watch. Examine. When you think about a private investigator, what do? They sit back and they examine what's going on. You know, they make diligent inquisition, right? They don't just sit there and twiddling their thumbs. They're pensive. They're contemplating on things. They're examining, reasoning. Okay, I see this, all right. And they're putting things together and are making a case, right? They're building a case. So you have to be able to investigate, right? And not only to investigate, but you have to be willing to be humble. You can't be damn puffed up in your mind and think you know it, right? But there should be no matter too great for you or too small for you in the governing of your household, whether it's in finances, whether it's in health matters, right? I have daughters. Those daughters, you have to come and learn how to deal with daughters differently. They go through different emotional things. You got to check your tone, how you talk to them, and it's a balance. There's a lot that goes in to govern a household. I have sons as well. Some of my sons don't live in my household, right? Now, that's a whole nother story. The curse, right? But one of my sons actually lives in my household. So, even getting my balance with him, he's turning into a teenager now. You can't give them too much rope. You give them too much rope, too much freedom, and that they'll be willful. The scripture teaches that. So you have to be able to weigh all of these things in a balance, and you have to be able to discern when to press forward and when to fall back, right? When to ask questions, and when to kind of let situations play out. And all of these things take a lot of wisdom, right? And wisdom isn't acquired all in one day, in one sitting. It takes a lot of wisdom, right? I'm going to get this Sirach 27:3. The book of Sirach, chapter 27 and verse 3. And it reads, unless a man hold himself diligent in the fear of the Lord, his house shall soon be overthrown. Now, when you think about something overthrown, it's destroyed. You don't want your house overthrown. But if you're not fearing the Most High God, you're not going to have rigid standards. You're not going to have that strong foundation to build the expectations of how you govern your household. You might get into all type of wicked, lewd acts. You might get into mismanagement of resources, whether that's lights getting cut off, a gas dam getting cut off, right? Mismanagement of time. Time is a very precious resource. I struggle with that. Trying to balance. You got your business, you got your family, you got time you got to spend with your wife, you got time you got to, self time. You have all of these different things. You have relationships as far as in the body. You have responsibilities as you go to camp. You got to teach, you got to videos. It's a lot, but it's a blessing. And all of these things are part of you, Lord, willing and striving to be that righteous example. To build your household up. All of those different responsibilities are brick, right? And you got to have a strong foundation. You have to understand the blueprint and know where you place certain bricks at when you're building this foundation. And as you build up your house and you build up your household, there's other obstacles that might arise. So that's why it all goes back down to fearing the Most High God and being able to stay encouraged through this fear. Now look at mighty men that we have examples of. Our mighty forefathers: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Nehemiah, David, Solomon, Yahushua, Joseph, you know, Daniel, Ezekiel. We have so many righteous examples of mighty brothers who have families, but who also didn't neglect the work. And that's a big responsibility, man. So this message is to all of my brothers who are striving for perfection. You know, whether you're married, whether you're single, right? And this message is for my sisters as well, to have a standard. So when the Most High brings you that righteous king, you're not tricked. You have expectations. Because men of the world have different expectations, Lord willing, than men in the truth. You know, when you're in the world, you don't really all of the time rationalize. Well, most of the times you don't rationalize about cause and effect. You know, there's certain things that may have happened and it may trigger off a chain of events because you never thought about the effect of your action. But in its truth, by Shem Yahushua, Lord willing, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So having the fear of the Most High God is going to enable you to be in a position, Lord willing, where you will have, you know, that forethought and that foresight, as opposed to having hindsight of going and doing an action or engaging in something, and then you jammed up, or it didn't go the way that you expected, or it brought calamity on your household, on your family, and now you look back like, man, I woulda, shoulda, coulda. You don't want to be in that type of situation, right? Let's get Proverbs 25 and 28. Book of Proverbs, chapter 25 and verse 28. He that have no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Brothers have to be able to govern themselves. Hashem Yahushua spirit. Have to be able to govern yourself. You have to have self-control. How can you rule a household if you don't even have self-control? If you just toss to and fro, you're not centered in your mind, you have no patience, right? You have no goals, you have no ambitions. You have to have a vision. Let me get this precept real quick, right? Doesn't say where there is no vision, the people perish. Right? Book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So you gotta have vision. You have to have a plan. You can't have a family and just be winging it all the time. Now we understand sometimes you have to be, what they say, ingenuitive. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to roll with the punch. But that's not an everyday, all day, every situation. You know, a brother's got to work. A brother's got to teach. A brother's got to protect. It's a lot of responsibility being a husband. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's a lot of responsibility to govern a family. Not to be taken lightly. And it takes growth, and you're not going to get everything right all the time in the first time. And that's where the wisdom comes in at Bashem Yahushua, because you might then bump your head, right? You might bust your head open. But I guarantee you, Lord willing, Abaratazah, the next time you're in that situation, it won't be in there. Because you'll use the wisdom of going through that experience and applying that wisdom. So therefore, Lord willing, you can throw it off calamity. You can throw it off repeating the same erroneous thing or going through the same challenge over and over. And that's where it goes back to having that vision and to be able to foresee the evil. A lot of times you got to foresee the evil. And you got to hide yourself from it, right? Put this in the book of Proverbs 23. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth themselves, but the simple pass on and are punished. And this is why you have to, however you got to do it, you got to take some self-time. You got to think about a general who's going to all different type of lands and planning war campaigns and, sieges and besieging walls and, overthrowing kingdoms and in combat. Hey, this is a combat, y'all. So that general has to take out time to strategize. You got to take some quiet time, some time to yourself, where you can begin to reflect and you can examine the situations. Back to that investigating. When a private investigator is going through an investigation, they're kind of aloof sometimes. Right? You might see them ducked off. And for hours, they're sitting there just flashing pictures. And then they go through all of the pictures. I see this. And then they categorize that this day he was doing this. Okay, she was right here. All right, this is an event right here. Okay, I noticed. And then they're making a timeline of history of what's going on, an account thing. You have to be able to do these things, right, in order to even force certain situations that might not be advantageous for you, and to notice certain patterns that you may be going down yourself, certain patterns of your family, of your household, right? You got to be diligent. I'm going to get this real quick. Get that Proverbs. Got to know the state of your flock. Got to think a herdsman. If the herdsman does not know the state of the flock, your flock may go and be diseased, right? Your flock may be weak. Your flock may be full of parasites. Your flock may get lost. Your flock might not have sufficient grazing ground. You have to be diligent to know the state of your flock. And in this context, your flock is your family, is your household. Those that the Most High God have entrusted to you. And through the Spirit, we do realize that the household expands outside of your physical household. We all are the household of faith. But in this context, we're talking directly about your household. It's time for us to get our households in. And men, kings, Malachiam, in order to get our households in order, we first got to get in order. Didn't the Most High God say through his word, right, that there's an order? You got Yahweh, you got Yahushua, you got the man, and then the woman, and then the children. So if you out of order, if we out of order, everything's out of order, right? And the scriptures say, hey, don't do all things decently in order. So a part of that order is being diligent. Diligence takes work. Diligence is not always an easy thing, y'all. It's not always an easy thing. It's like, it's something that you have to practice. Repetition. You have to be repetitive to build diligence. And that's why diligence and discipline go directly together. Sometimes it's hard. You don't feel like being disciplined. I don't feel like being disciplined all the time. Hey, sometimes my mind want to wander. Hey, sometimes I just want to damn go to sleep. But you have to keep going. You have to have expectation. You have to have goals. You have to have focus. All of this is about being diligent, right? You got to think like if you work, let's say if you work a job, right? You have certain hours that you have to be at that job. And you're at that job, you might not even like that job. But you have an expectation to take care of your family. So you will have to go out and be disciplined to go and do something that you might not even like doing. Right? And I'm not saying brothers don't like working. Hey, but some brothers don't though. So in this And it's funny because it's not like a ha-ha funny, but as a matter of fact, it's like when you're younger, I'm gonna get this real quick. When you are a boy, you thought like a boy, right? But now you a man, you gotta put off all the childish ways. You gotta put out all of the childish ways. And I want to get this. I don't want to get the ESV. I want to get this in the AMP. It's 1 Corinthians 13. So, in the AMP. You gotta put off those childish ways, man. You know, here it is. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11 in the AMP. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. No, childish reasoning. A child reasoning. You think about reasoning. It's the method in which you conduct and execute certain things. The thought process. When you think about the thought process of a child, it's really not that developed. A child has a difficult time getting past maybe 1 or 2 steps. It's kind of like a here now, right now, I want this right now. A child doesn't really reason for the future. They haven't quite developed that yet, that maturity. But you don't want to be childish in your reasoning. You know, your inward thoughts. Because we know the mind is deceitfully wicked, who can know it? So you definitely don't want to be moving in some type of childish mentality as a man. I'm not talking about joking, but look, even joking, I take myself on that joking too much. You know, man, this truth is, it's a difficult thing. And if it was easy, and I'm not saying the Most High, I'm not saying it's burdensome. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying it's burdensome, but it takes discipline, it takes thought, it takes spiritual excellence, it takes examination, and it takes a lot to be in this truth. And all of these skill sets that we're building up, we're applying them, Lord willing, through the Spirit of Bar Yahweh Shah, to be that righteous husband, to be that just man, to be that righteous king, right? To govern in truth and justice, to be able to not show partiality and judgment, even when you might want to, when your flesh might want to lead you that way. To be fair, to be equitable, right? To know how to maneuver in between quarrels and conflicts, even in your household. You got children that may be fighting, they may be kind of argumentative, right? You and your wife might get in a disagreement. You got to know how to govern yourself. And you can't wear your damn feelings on your sleeve. Everything is ruffling your feathers. And sometimes you got to learn how to bite your tongue. That's a part of self-control. That's a part of not having a childish reason, where you're just saying the first thing that comes to your mind. Just damn blotting out whatever comes to your mind. And then once it's out, you can't recant those statements. That's childish reason. You know, you want to be able to be built up. And it takes time. Sometimes. It takes consistency. You know, I say this in one of my little sayings I be saying is that don't try to be perfect first, try to be consistent. Because consistency will eventually, Lord willing, yield perfection. All of these things are examples how we should be. And I had to check myself on this even with my sons. Like, you can't expect something out of somebody that you haven't taught them. And I'm speaking in the context of your household. stop being unrealistic with your expectations if you haven't put in the work to even expect that out of somebody. Let that sink in for a little bit. These are the things that one has to do. You have to take self-accountability, right? And that's why it says, when I became a man, I did away with childish things. You gotta stop blaming everybody else for everything. And you want to be the head when you want to be the head when it's convenient. But if your household in shambles, you're the head of it. You can't point the finger at everybody else. Are you the problem or are you the solution? Or are you scared to admit that you're the problem? That's pride. You can't govern with pride. Well, you can govern with pride, but we see how all of the mighty examples of where that gets you. Pride. Don't say before. Pride is before the fall. Paraphrase. Now you're so prideful you don't even know the state of the flock, because your pride won't even let you in truth examine and see what's going on. And a lot of y'all brothers are scared of y'all women too. You shouldn't be tiptoeing around your wife. Straight up and down. Don't mean be disrespectful. Doesn't mean be frantic or lying. But you gotta understand, it's your responsibility. She's your property. The Most High made her for you. She's not supposed to rule over you. You're supposed to rule over her in righteousness. So you have to even have a balance with that. You don't want to say something because you think it's going to upset her, instead of just being honest. These are the things that we have to deal with. How to deal with these. You gotta address them. You gotta hit it right head on. You gotta erase fear. What you're scared for? It's your responsibility to guide your household. It's what it is, right? Let me get this. Let me get the second address where I want to go, 14 and 13. Bear with me. Bam. Book the second address, chapter 14 and verse 13. Now therefore, set thine house in order, and reprove thy people. Comfort such of them as be in trouble. And now renounce corruption. You gotta set the house in order. That doesn't only mean make sure your house is clean, right? Make sure that your family is in the right frame of spirit. We always talk about the frame of mind, but what frame of spirit? What spirits are vexing your household? Take account of these things. What spirit is vexing your household? Have you thought about that? Have you considered that, or even, sought out what's going on? When is the last time you really spent time and had a deep conversation of seeing where your children are? What are they going through? Is there anything that they're dealing with? You should be talking to them every single day, yo. Hey, how was school? Did anything happen? Does anybody make you feel uncomfortable? Are you happy? What do you think about this? Pick their brains. It's a lot of responsibility. But you can do it. I believe in you by Shimmy Awashai. But you have to take action. You got to take the step. If you just sitting down all day thinking about it and not being a man of action, nothing is going to change. You could think about it all in your head. You can have the faith in your head, but where them works at? Where them works at? Set thine house in order. Let's go into this word order. Let's go into this word order. Order. The arrangement or disposition of people or things in relation to each other according to a particular sequence. You gotta have your house in sequence. I tell my children when they get up in the morning, first thing you can do is pray. Roll over, pray. You ain't gotta pray for 50 minutes. That should be the first step in your sequence. Because you waking up and Bashim Yahushua, you having your mind focused on the Most High. That's your first thing that you should be focused on. He woke you up. Boom, boom, pray. It's a sequence. It's an order. Next, amen, make your bed. I know you don't feel like it. Make your bed. You know why? Number one is teaching you responsibility. Number two is teaching you order, which is a part of responsibility. It's teaching you to have expectations of having things in order. Small things like that end up, Lord willing, turning into big things because it's repetition. It's expectation. It's not just because there's two different types of expectations. You can have an expectation to excel and you can have an expectation to fail. Order is very important. And that also goes down into time management. I have, that's probably one of the toughest things. If I'm being honest, I'm gonna say if I'm being honest, to be honest, time management, man. You gotta really, time is such a tricky thing because you don't never know how much you have of it left. It's a blessing, it's a gift, and it's a curse. Because if you don't make the best use of your time, you can't get it back. And you never know when your time is gonna run out. That's why order is so important. And order goes directly back to being disciplined. You know, you want to be disciplined, you want to be in order. These are things that you want to do. You know, you don't want to be in a scenario where you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and you're not getting anywhere. You're not progressing. Reprove thy people. Comfort such of them as be in trouble. And now when we talk about time, when it says now, that means right now in the present. Renounce corruption. Man. Renounce corruption. Let go from the mortal thoughts. Cast away thy burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature. You want to cast off the burdens of man. You know, man is burdened down by so many things. You got your job, you got worldly, carnal things, you got your thoughts, responsibilities, your expectations and people's expectations on you, your goals, your aspirations, past failures. A lot of people can't govern their household because they're too concerned about what didn't work in the past. Where's your faith at? You got to put off now the weak nature. And that weak nature chiefly goes into sin, goes into iniquity. Things that'll get you destroyed. You got to put it off. You got to be like a snake in the sense of shedding that old skin. Right? Not in the sense of being damn, slithery, wicked, serpent crafty. But you gotta put off that old man. You gotta walk in righteousness. Walk in the image of Yahushua. You gotta be a trailblazer. I'm gonna get that word. gotta be a trailblazer. I'm not talking about Portland. Let me get the definition. See that? Trailblazer, a pioneer, an innovator. You gotta innovate yourself. You know, like you gotta innovate yourself. You can't be that old man forever. How can you expect to get ahead and to have somebody trust you if you damn slothful? How do you expect your children, your wife, those of your household to depend on you? How do you expect to be respected and you inconsistent? It's heavy, man. It's things you gotta consider. And if you are going through these things, you yourself, you have to change you gotta change your approach. It's one thing to acknowledge it, like you acknowledge your sin. That's different than acknowledging it and repenting and turning from it. Take action. You are supposed to be the protector. You're the protector. Let's get 1 Timothy 5:8. 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse. Like it is worse than the infidel. And the infidel goes into an unbeliever. You worse than an unbeliever. Not think for your own household. And this isn't just going into obvious providing financially. A lot of people provide financially and aren't even there spiritually. They're not helping build up. I got caught up in that. It's so easy to get caught up in the everyday life to get pulled. You gotta stay diligent. All praise to the Most High that He's put a spirit on me that when I find myself going too far this way, it'd be like a thought, man. It's like a wake-up call. You gotta be able to provide for your own household. Emotionally. A lot of people overlook the importance of emotional wellness. And that's why, too, it goes back to not being frantic or relying on the household. You could be creating an environment that's just not emotionally healthy. And that brings spirits. Now your household got different, your people, your children, your wife, they got different spirits on you. Because of the environment that you've created, it's not emotionally healthy. And people are always damn angry, they're irritated, upset, frustrated. You don't want to be one of those guys that you walk in a room and ain't nobody say nothing to you. You're always this damn mad. That creates spirits. And you got to check what spirit is on you. What spirit are you in? There's a lot that goes into building up a household in righteousness. We've seen how to do it according to the world. We've seen that. We've tested that out. We've seen how to do those things according to the ways of the world. Right? Look at this Iraq 39:6. Because even when it goes into the things that you need to support your household, right? And it's not about having the biggest house, fanciest furniture, and the damn, 1,000, whatever. Not about that. The Most High bless you with that. Hey, all praise to the Most High. The Most High bless you with just meager, accommodations. All praise to the Most High. Right? Iraq 39 and 26. The principal thing for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, the blood of the grape, oil, and clothing. Now, these are basic necessities that one must provide, right? All these things are for good to the godly. So to the sinner, they are turned into evil. And that's deep. Because things that are created for the use on the right-hand side will easily be turned on the left. You don't want to put your trust in these things. You don't want to have vain hopes, right? Where everything that you're doing is basically, how do I say this? Vanity. Everything you're doing is for material possession. Everything you're doing is to be seen. No sincerity. You don't want to be unsincere in governing and ruling your household. You want to have a sincere spirit. You want to have a sincere spirit. It's paramount, because if you lack sincerity, you're not really going to be committed for the right reason. And his brothers, hey, it's nothing wrong with having multiple wives, but why do you want a multiple wives? Like, what is your intention? And you got to take accountability and examination of those things. You might not even know your true intention until you examine. And even when you talk about bringing children into the world, and that's the Most High God don't play about his children, right? Your responsibility to take care of them, good, bad, indifferent, no matter, that's your responsibility. It's a heavy thing. And as we go into the Day of Atonement here shortly, these are things that you have to consider. Have you done right by your children? I know I haven't. I've done a lot of, I could have done a lot better. Straight up and down. So it's like, these are things, if you never repented from that, it don't matter if it was before you came to the truth. It don't matter if it's why you in the truth. You got to take the time to examine and be honest. Be honest, right? Hey, just be honest. Household building is very, very vital. You cannot, this is how we build nations. A nation. And nations. Because he said that Yahweh Shai said that we were in Ezekiel 37, we will be no more two nations. Won't be no more northern and southern. We're going to be one state. This is how we build that. You can't have a nation without having family. And you can't have families without having men. Ruling those families. Guiding them in righteousness. And we see where that has got our nation right now. Men aren't at home. They damn effeminate as hell. Right? Not trustworthy. No vision. Damn, no intelligence. No, number one, don't fear Yahweh. And look where this has gotten us as a nation of kings and priests. So, these are things that you want to make sure that you're being that provider for your household, right? You want to be that provider. I'm going to get the first one. 4 and 12. 1 Timothy 4:12. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believer in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. So you want to be that mighty example in your house. Don't want to just be talking about it. Your actions speak louder than your words. That's an earthly proverb. Actions speak louder than words. But your words should also hold weight as well. It's a balance. Your actions should speak louder than your words, but your words shall hold weight as well. You don't want to be taken as a damn joke in your household. Children smacking you upside the head. Shut the hell up, daddy. And just doing whatever they want. You don't want to be taking your wife, you ask her, you tell her to do something. Nigga, you do it. You're a damn joke. You don't want that type of lifestyle. The Most High didn't create you to have that type of lifestyle. He didn't create. That's not the order he created. You know? And you got to be able to also, a part of that providing, once again, is providing a loving, caring, safe environment. Your wife, your children, they should be able to communicate with you. They should feel comfortable enough that if they're going through something, that they can communicate it to you. Lord willing. Now, we do know it's certain things that they shouldn't be comfortable communicating to. They shouldn't be comfortable disrespecting. They shouldn't be comfortable talking back to you, right? But we understand, but get the context of something. You know? These are things that you have to take in consideration. And Most High willing, you got to continue to be built up in the spirit to take on these challenges, right? Let me get Philippians 3:7. Book of Philippians, chapter 3 and verse 17. Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so, as ye have us for an example. So we should be that example, right? And when it says, and mark them which walk so, as ye have us for an example, you want your children, you want your household, you want your daughters, you want your sons to mark you as that example. When you mark something, right? You're identifying. You put an identifying marker on it. You're putting something to notice. You got to think when you mark something, it's like, attention. You want to be that. What do you call it? You want to be that standard. That's the word I'm looking for. You want to be that standard. You want to be that golden standard. So when they get out in the world, because they're going to get out in the world, guess what they hear? The spirit and power, how about Shemi Shah? The word that you trained up in. Your actions. They've seen your actions. They know what you expect of them because they know what the Most High God expects of you and expects of you to teach them what He expects of them. And sometimes children go out in the world and they go the other way. You still gotta pray for them. Still gotta try to guide them, right? You can't give up on your children. It's warfare out here, y'all. Ain't nobody safe. Ain't nobody safe, right? What do I mean by that? And the world want to chew up and spit everybody out, especially our Israelite children. Even a part of protecting your household is protecting what you allow them to take into their spirit. What do you allow them to watch? We had to limit my daughters on the iPad. You know? Too much of that stuff, that's even out of order. That's even teaching a bad habit. And sometimes it can be more, you might have work to do, you might have this to do. Sometimes it's easier to just let them over there doing what they're doing. But is that the best way to do it? Heavy in this truth, y'all. Build up your household. Be that righteous man, that righteous husband, that just man who stands for something. And get you a family planner. I got a little notebook I'm working on where I'm starting to write down, get back in your writing. And that goes back to, like I said earlier, taking that time out that you need. You need time to yourself to get your thoughts together, to get your strategy together, to get your plan of attack together, to regroup. Take that time out, brother, and get your house in order. We're in the end days, we're in the end times. It's time to get your house in order. All the way in order, too. Not just that, kind of did it today, and then consistency is the key. You gotta be consistent. And remember, being consistent ain't always easy. And I'm gonna tell you, hey, sometimes it's hard as hell to be consistent because it takes dedication. It takes dedication. We get this class in 1 Peter 2:21. Book of 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 21. For even hereunto were you called, because Yahushua also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps. Amen. You should be following the steps of Yahushua. Hey, he died for the household of Yahshua. Heavy. Died for his household. You willing to die for yours? Are you? Let's get this. I'm gonna bring out this 22. Who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. This is important as well because, and I sent my son a precept today. It was in Proverbs. I believe that was Proverbs 20 or 21, right? That was going into let me get this real quick. Even when a child is known by if he does good or not. Paraphrasing. Or Proverbs 20 and 11. That's what it was. Proverbs 20 and 11. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. So you got to think, even you young men, this is how you train them up in the way that they should go. By them seeing your example. He don't see how you treat his mama? Good or bad? You don't think he see how thoughtful you are? But then you want to tell him to do something? And he still got to listen. Don't get it twisted. But I'm saying we have to be more conscious as men that our example goes far beyond what we say. It's in our actions. It's in our continence. It's in our confidence. Right? All of these things in totality make up your influence. How influential are you going to be over your household? Because everybody's influenced by something. Anybody who tells you that they're not influenced by something, they are a damn lie. Like, everybody is influenced by something. You want to be that influenced by Shem Yahushua over your children, over your wife, over your house. That positive influence, that role model, that godly, God-fearing, Yahweh praise Hashem Yahushai role model. That's what you want to be. You don't want your children and your wife and or your wives to be influenced by the world. To have them itchy ears, you didn't pour enough into them, into their spirit. So now when they out in the world, they got itchy ears. They hearing, they not sound. Consistency. You want to keep pouring it to them, pouring it to them. You got to find different ways to reach different people. Everybody in your household is not going to receive everything in the same way. There's different learning styles. And you might have people with different ages in your household. And you might have different sexes. There might be a girl, might be a boy, might be a 7-year-old girl. You might have a 12-year-old boy. You might have an 18-year-old teenager. You might have a toddler. Like, everybody is not going to process things the same way. So you have to be versatile, Lord willing. And you got to pray to the Most High God for the spirit of wisdom on how to connect with those of your household. That's back to being that provider. You have to be resourceful. Get the word real quick. You have to be resourceful. Having the ability to find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties. You got to be resourceful. Because the world is very resourceful on trying to overcome the teachings that you instill in your children. Every time that they leave, and even you, whenever you leave out of that door, you're being tested. And you know what? To be honest, you ain't got to leave out of the door. Internet, television, Roblox. Everything is sending messages, sending signals, trying to overthrow you, trying to overthrow your household. But are you going to let it? That's what you got to reflect on. Are you going to let it? You going to let it overthrow you? Lord forbid. So with that, I'm going to give all glory, praises, and honor to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so by Shema Mashiach, one like Yahushai. Lord willing, amen. On Mondays was edifying. Kwam Yashab.